Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of Creatio's Product Battles. I am your host, Alex Petronenko, product evangelist with Creatio. And today, my guest is Sam Biardo, founder and CEO of Tech Advisors. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Alex.
How are you doing today?
It's a wonderful day in Chicago.
All right, perfect. Well, glad to hear that. Now, Sam, today, since this is the product battle, right, we're not going to be talking business, we're going to be talking functionality, and we're going to be comparing Infor CRM and Creatio CRM. Is that right?
That's right.
All right, perfect.
I got the gauntlets on.
Okay. Well, as far as I remember, what we've kind of discussed and what we're planning to compare today is really driving the lead to cash process, right, and see how exactly can organizations leverage the out-of-the-box functionality and out-of-the-box only, by the way, functionality for Infor CRM and Creatio CRM or Sales Creatio, and really see, how different systems support these processes, right?
That's correct. Yes, because a lot of times they do the same thing, but in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Every CRM is a little bit different, right? Everybody has their own strength. Everybody has their own perks and functionality features. And today, again, we're going to be doing it side by side almost, right? We're going to go feature by feature, and we're hope to get an insight from our participants and our audience that can actually vote in the bottom of their screens for either Infor or Creatio and see what the people actually think, right? Who do they support? Which style, which methods, which process eventually they support more, okay? And everybody, don't forget that besides the voting, you also have the chat area. If you're gonna have any questions or any thoughts you wanna share with us, please make sure to send them over. We have our broadcast managers together with us today. They're gonna be forwarding those questions or thoughts in the separate chat area, and we'll make sure to answer some of those if any arise. So after this kind of a formal introduction, Sam, since you're the guest of Creatio, I would welcome you to start first. And please tell us where we're going to be actually going into as a first point of the demonstration.
Well, I think the first part is you and I are both going to compare the lead modules. So right up on the screen right now, I have the Infor CRM lead module. And you can see that the top half of the screen here, these are just different groupings. This is a list of leads. You can see that, of course, someone calls me the moment we start the demo. I love that. We can have notes in history and other activities down here. Getting leads are pretty easy. You can have, there's an import tool that you can see over here on the side as under the common tasks, or I can even be an email and like I can just click on this and say, who is this Sam Biardo guy? Oh, he's a new lead, and it'll come in and create a form inside of email. So I have the ability to take leads inside of email or entry or import. And then the other real key feature is the qualification. I can qualify this lead through one of any list that I've created that lets me say, is this a valid customer? Is there a budget? If so, what is the number? And so on. So when I'm all done, I would convert this lead. The lead would then deduplicate. If there was an existing account, it would show it right here. If there isn't an existing account, it would create one, and it can also create not only an account, but an opportunity. Okay. And so that's it for leads.
All right, perfect. Well, that's pretty good, I would say, right? I do want to kind of point out that, for me personally, the UI here is a little bit OG, let's put it this way, right? It's pretty old school, and there's quite a lot of areas for navigation, right? So we're gonna talk about navigation through the system a little bit later, but like just looking at this, it's a little bit difficult to kind of read through, where exactly you stand, what is the highlighted area, or like what are the features that you can use here. Now, I do understand that, on the lead management process, it's not really a process, right? It's some supported, some, dynamic fields that are pre-populated, and then you have just an option to convert it, and then you go through the qualification, right? And then you go through the deduplication.
It's a checklist.
Sorry?
Think of it as a checklist. Qualification,
yeah.
it is a checklist.
All right, perfect. Now, let's probably start sharing my screen, and we're trying to compare the features here. Again, those are incomparable in my personal opinion, right? Because this is just kind of a, a completely different way of managing the functionality, managing the pipeline. Now, a few things that I do want to kind of point out here that, again, in my personal opinion, it is biased since I've been with Creatio for so many years. The interface here is a little bit cleaner, or quite cleaner, I would say, right? We have a little bit more of a guidance through the system on where we are, and also straight away as you jump into the lead record, you can see here, this progress bar that is actually giving us an insight of where we are currently in the lead management process. And I'll explain what I mean by the process specifically when I'm going to complete a few steps here. But a few things that I do also like to point out here is that, with the Creatio, it's a little bit easier to quickly jump into some social networks to search for additional data for your contact and leads. Even on the lead stage, even pre-qualification, we also run some of the deduplication of the data. First of all, where we pick up the similar leads and kind of display for the sales rep here, if there's been any previous engagements with any similar contact or account throughout the history of the of Creatio. And this can give you a lot of insight on whether there is currently an existing lead with the same need, right? Maybe assigned to a different sales guy, or if previously you have been able to close a deal with this lead, right? So just more insightful data and more insightful UI personally. And of course, a few more things here is that, again, as I mentioned, we're doing the deduplication even on the stage of the lead, where based on our deduplication procedures and processes, we can actually say that there's been a full match on the contact and account for this lead. So we don't want to create a new one. We want to match this lead to an existing account and contact so that, we don't even create any duplicates, right? And we're not relying on the qualification stage, to do that. But of course, a few more things here is that we also provide an insight into the predictive score that is supported by our machine learning models, part of our platform, part of our studio Creatio, that can kind of give you an understanding of what is the quality of this lead, right? If it's actually worth taking care of this lead, what is the probability of converting it, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but out of the box for Infor, right? If you're just going for the shelf solution, you don't get the predictive score set.
No, that's a different module.
All right. Well, in our case, what we actually do here is that not only do we provide it, part of the platform, part of the out-of-the-box solution, but it is also configurable, right? And you can measure not just the out-of-the-box columns and fields, but if you do a little bit of configuration, you add a little bit more metrics there, you can measure them from different perspectives, right? And you can manually, without any development, through just point and click, configure your own machine learning models and data prediction, not just for the score, but also for classification, for regression, and for recommendation as well. But just kind of complement what you did with the lead, right, with the qualification. What I wanted to do here is actually say that we're qualifying this lead, and you can see here that under the progress bar, the system reacts to that checkpoint and is actually pushing me forward to the next stage. And this is exactly what we mean by the process, when the system is guiding you through certain steps and is actually suggesting you, another activity that you need to complete. Where again, based on the result of the step, the system would be taking an action upon a lead, right? If we want to disqualify this lead, if we want to move directly to the order, by the way, so bypass the opportunity stage, maybe this is a quick win. And this is another thing that we haven't seen in Infor really, right? Or if we want to proceed to a handoff stage, right? And really convert this lead into an opportunity where the system is actually, again, driving me to the step where I need to provide the qualification details. So in case of, when we were looking at your screen, we're looking at Infor, one of the things that I've noticed is that there's really no bulletproof way of making sure that the sales rep that is, entering the data actually enters all the correct data, right? This is actually, based on their personal decision if they want to do that. While in our case, we can actually display just the selected list of fields or data attributes that need to be provided for the qualification. And we can, make sure that the sales rep actually fills in this data while the system would do the rest for it, right? And this is, again, what we believe is a process, right? Where the system drives you, the system brings you to those steps. and then just performs the manual, data operations like creating records and updating records in the background for the user. What do you think?
Okay, let's go show accounts and contacts now.
All right. You don't sound so happy, Sam.
So I'm in the accounts. I'm in the group view of the account screen right now. And what's unique about Infor is they have a lot of different views here. First of all, this is all accounts, but I can have a group of simply customers. If I want to filter down, I don't need to create filters. I have automatic filters on the side here. So this is a list of all the data in there. And if I just click on that, I'll see all of the customers in Illinois. And then if I actually want to look at what city or whatever, I can pick that, or a particular account manager. I think they're all part of Lee Hogan, so that's not going to be exciting. Or I can look at just all the accounts that start in A in Illinois, and I get down to Abbott. So this is sort of a very cool little feature.
Quick question on that feature, right? As we're looking through the states, is it possible just quickly, not just browse through the states, but a quick search on what state you want to pick it?
Sure. Yeah, I can go up here and speed search and put in the name or the state. I can filter on a column. I can just look for a filter selection up here. I can create a brand new group called, Illinois accounts or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of different ways of getting to the same place inside the product. It is the way it's designed. Okay. So I'm going to go in and look at one of my accounts, Abbott Limited. And a couple things, I can show it on a map. If I click on this, I can track it. These are cascading lists. So this says it's a customer and it's, this type of customer. If I made it a prospect, it could potentially change the list down here because they're cascading. I'm gonna go back.
Yeah, so basically just some dependent values like filtering. Okay.
Down here for quick speed, it's got, a bunch of information like the contacts and the opportunities and the activities. Now, activities in their metaphor are things happening in the future. And then we have all this other stuff like history, and I can just bring it up here. History is what's happened in the past. Okay. And then we even have something called the timeline, which is sort of a view of, I've got old data, so a view of what's happened to an account from a timeline perspective. And again, you can just literally click over any of these items and view them. So looking at information, frankly, is pretty easy to do inside the product. When we get down to contacts, you're going to see that this is a list of everybody in that group. So this would be, if this is Abbott, the first one, this is AD Foods, telling me don't jump off that account. Down here on the bottom are the most common things you would do, like do a mail merge or send an email or add a note or whatever. They're all the common tasks are down here. These are actually configurable. So if you have your own common functions and tasks, you would just add them to the bottom here. If I look at contacts and just bring up one contact, yes, we're going to leave. You're going to see that, same metaphor, right? I've got these tabs down here of other things, so I can look at an audit, or I can give them web access to a portal. I can look at how they responded to marketing campaigns. I could look at what lead sources or attachments they may have. Again, associations are links to other people, like who's their banker or who's their contractor. This is a list of contact-based processes that are active right now, which I don't have any open cases or tickets, activities, history, opportunities, and then some general information about that person.
Yeah, Sam, if you don't mind me just asking a few questions here, right? Because something's catching my eye as we're going through this. Now, when we look at this specific screen, right, you've got email 2, you've got email 3. Does that mean that, if I would be using Infor, I'd be limited to only having 3 emails on the record, and if I had a 4th one, I would actually have to have a developer add another field?
No, it's they're behind the scenes. We only show 3 out of the box. So there's same thing with addresses. You'll see that there's an address table, so you can have unlimited number of addresses, just like you can have unlimited number of emails.
Okay, got it. Perfect. So,
well, now we go to opportunities.
All right, let's see what you got.
So I'm in the group view of the opportunities. And by the way, we sort of have a business card view as well. So didn't really mention it, but I can look quickly at an opportunity and see what products they have, who are the contacts on it, and actually see the competitors as well.
Yeah.
So we have pop into an opportunity here, pretty straightforward. We have a little summary window off to the side here, which tells you, your sales potential, and your actual dollar sales potential is based on what it sees was closed. So this is actually a closed opportunity. You can also see some other things, what products you have. Now, the metaphor for products is they have a product table, and products actually are organized around families, and products have price levels based on volume. Products also have the ability to be a bill of material, so I can have one component made of several sub products. So instead of having to pick a product, I can pick a package, which is a group of products, and associate a price with that. Contacts, opportunity summaries, if this thing is converted to a sales order, if a quote went out. Competitors, which is actually pretty interesting because in their competitor view, you get a little mini SWOT analysis of that competitor and how it competes against you. And then you have, of course, the sales process. And so the sales process in this case, we're going to start it all over again. We'll start a different one. But you can see that in their sales process, again, it's not a true workflow, but it's a checklist like the other metaphor, but these are all hot links. So if I actually click on this, it'll bring up the to-do activity and let me assign it to somebody in the organization, or I can do it myself. I can also just mark that off like I just did. One of the things it does do is it calculates the difference between completing tasks in the sequence, and it actually will alert you when something takes longer than it's supposed to. So you can actually say that particular opportunity of this size should take 3 weeks. If it starts to go awry, it sort of tells you that you're out of sequence or out of formula, and it can report that up. You can also see up here, it's got some basic data about when the thing was opened and how long it's been in the process. And as you can also see, as I complete these things, it went from 1% to 10% because every stage has a percentage associated with it.
Yep.
So this is a quick overview of the of what you would get in the sales in the opportunity screen and the sales process.
All right, perfect. Well, before we move to my screen and to Creatio's kind of way of managing the opportunities, what I really want to maybe just ask you a few questions. Now, when you open up an opportunity on Infor, what does this system actually kind of draw your attention to? Like, what is the first thing that you see here?
Well, most of the stuff is generated in, and this piece right here is being calculated from the information down here. Okay. So essentially what it really wants to know is if this was a brand new opportunity, or if I unwon it, what you would want to know is when you expect to close it, and what status it is right now, and what products you are. And one of the other things that, by the way, I didn't mention, it's already built if you sell through a reseller model. So if you sell through a distributor, you can track that right over here in the reseller field.
Okay.
So it's already built.
Sam, if you don't mind, just like another question. Let's say that if I was a sales rep working in Infor, right, and I had this opportunity that is about to close, I've got a few, tasks completed, or maybe I've got like 10 of them. By the way, this is another good question. Let's say they were like in the very last stage. So every time that I would open the opportunity record, in order to see what's my task list, I would need to scroll down, right?
You would probably need to scroll all the way down to here to see what's left. Yep.
And if I had, let's say I have, well, now you've got a pretty compact list, right? But let's say I had 6 tasks on the
we can make it bigger
page.
Here. So here's a fairly long one.
Okay, yeah. So that would be basically me just scrolling through the record endlessly until I get to the very bottom of the list, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Now I want that to sink in for our audience, right? And maybe let's just flip over to my screen and see what we've got on Creatio's side. So basically, the reason why I wanted to ask those questions, Sam, is that when we talk about opportunity management and we talk about user adoption, right? We definitely say that whenever we open up an opportunity record, we want to have the sales rep focus around maybe two, three main areas, right? That would be definitely the progress bar and our dynamic case management, showing where exactly are we with this opportunity in the current stage. This might not be for the sales rep because usually sales rep are pretty on top of their pipelines, but maybe for the manager, right? We definitely want to show those tasks that are actually relevant to this specific stage, right, for this specific moment of time. And this is what I was referring to, like having to scroll down, right? First of all, you don't have to scroll down, it's right there. And this is not the list of everything that you would be completing towards an opportunity as part of the process. This is what is relevant for this current stage, because you might not actually need to have a list for needs analysis, right, or for the proposal if you're going to be disqualifying this opportunity in the end. But also, like another area that we focus the attention of the user here is really the key metrics on the left-hand side, right? This is just something out of the box that we have, and I think, and you know, in my experience, this is very insightful for the sales reps. First of all, you know, how confident they are they're going to be closing it. What is the estimated probability as of now, right? So based on the current stage, based on the data prediction that we can enable, as I mentioned before, right? What is our you know, countdown for this opportunity? How many days has been in the funnel? How many days at the current stage? Because very often, if you're looking at an opportunity, right, you need to get those metrics in, and you need to kind of understand what is actually happening with your opportunity. When I looked at Infor, I couldn't get that, you know, straight away. Maybe because I'm not very familiar with the UI, but it's also not very visible, not very visual for an end user, right? And I feel like new people that are getting on board with Infor, right, they struggle in the very beginning because they have to eye search that data on the screen, right? And for me, again, adoption, the UI, the ease of navigation, and data access visually is quite key, right? But of course, we can talk about the whole profile of the record. We can talk here that, you know, these base data sets are just something that we have out of the box. We do have as well, you know, some dynamic, you know, UI behavior based on what you put in. And of course, you can provide you know, keep track of the full opportunity profile. Starting with the buying personas, where you can define what's their role in the process, what is their influence and loyalty, right? And what is going to be affecting their decision-making factor. Now, obviously, this is just something that we find is base for any kind of opportunity tracking, opportunity profiles, right? We do talk about the Texas competitors and the SWOT analysis. This is actually where if you're picking up a competing product, right, you can actually get some of that already populated for you, right? So you can keep track of that in the product section, and you can have those canned responses and canned suggestions straight away. Now, we do say that if we're talking about keeping track of our own products, there's definitely the list. We have a pretty extensive product catalog and functionality that we can, you know, provide. We can sync those with the website and with the ERPs, just so that we are on top of what is actually, you know, the pricing model right now. What is the, you know, what are the discounts that you establish in the third-party application? And again, the whole UI here is rather responsive, right? It's very simple to navigate through it. But another point around the processes as well, Sam, is that just like we looked at the lead management stage, whenever we're looking at the processes in Creatio, they're more dynamic, right? If we had our lead record that was driving us to the next stage, because it is a rather structured process, when we talk about opportunities, they're more agile, they're more you know, unstructured and sometimes really chaotic. You've been in sales a lot longer than I was, and you know that is very true. But the point here is that I can actually, you know, complete and mark off some of the individual tasks as done so that the system can react and can push me to the next stage, right? Or generate some additional activities. Or I can actually say that I want to move to another stage straight away because my opportunity is actually progressing a lot faster. I do see that my probability is going to be increasing, right? And of course, I can manage the whole expected close date that's going to be affecting the forecast in the end. So when we talk about opportunity management, we want to provide guidance, we want to provide structured approach where it is possible, right? And we want to still allow the end users to be a little bit more flexible in the way that they work with the opportunities and manage their pipelines. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right, perfect. So before we move forward, Sam, just wanted to quickly do like a mid-session check and look at the voting. We're about 60% are pro Creatio, 40% are pro Infor. That's a pretty decent score for us at this moment. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to leverage it towards Creatio a little bit more as we move forward. And
I view it as my dynamic personality.
For sure, for sure. But also wanted to remind all of our audiences to continue voting. You can always change your mind. If you like Infor first, you can always change your mind towards Creatio. Ask your questions in the chat area. And definitely we're going to try and answer those as we move closer to the end of the session. All right, Sam, over to you.
Back to me. I just want to show one more thing on opportunities. We also track, who the decision maker is, what their competitor preferences, what our standing is. Our strategy, of course, with John is kickbacks, and his personal benefit is he gets a bonus. His issue, of course, is he's under investigation for taking kickbacks. So you can actually put that information in as well. But now we're going to take this and turn it into a quote. And so we have a quoting module. And literally we can take that quote and make it off of an opportunity or tie it to an opportunity. A quote gets a quote ID. When it becomes a sale, it'll actually get a sales order number. I can, again, the products will come over, but as I do the quote, I can simply just add new products as I want. You can tell all my data is because I actually have still selling Blackberries. And optical mice for that matter. So we can basically take a product and add it in at any point in time. This produces a list. We can have some details, ship to information, bill to information, and then we actually can have sync history. So with the Infor product family, if you have an Infor accounting solution, they automatically provide an integration to the back office. So any quote you build here can be pushed back to your Infor accounting system. It sort of comes with the solution. But again, it's very simple quoting. It is basically product level, which is actually coming from your ERP, and packages, which you can see down here. Packages are a set of products that have been put together. So there's our quoting module for Infor.
Okay, perfect. One of the things that I'm kind of noticing here as you're going through this is that there's quite a lot of different areas, right, that you can use, right? So you've got opportunities. Well, you've got leads that are really just raw data, right, that you have to qualify into an opportunity to actually check if this is, a duplicate or not. But that's a different story. But you've got opportunities, you've got quotes, you've got sales orders, and you've got packages, and all of them are kind of giving me an idea that this CRM is geared towards one specific industry that it is used in mostly. Is that fair? Is that a fair statement?
I would say that it works best if you're an Infor ERP user.
Okay.
And you're probably manufacturing, because those are the people who use Infor ERP for the most part.
Okay. So
I think that's where it works best in the world.
Yeah, well, this is interesting that you mentioned that specifically, because it sounded like the CRM is a little bit more of a commodity towards the ERP, like an addition rather than like a separate, independent and mature module. But that's just my biased opinion. Maybe some of our participants can object or support that statement. But let's flip it to my screen here, and a few things that I wanted to kind of mention, right? Is that again, we're comparing just out of the box, solutions, apples to apples. When it gets to quotes within Creatio CRM and Sales Creatio specifically, what we say that again, there are different levels that you can do this, and that would be based on how do you manage your quotation processes, because Sam, we work with very different types of customers, very different industries. sales models, and quoting needs and processes as well, right? So we talk about some of them would need just to have a simple printout right here that would be generating a Word document and populate all of the data through merged fields in a Word doc. We do say that some of them need to have a history of the quotations, and this is where they can actually reuse and use our order section as a base for the quotation processes. Since you can actually build different views of the quotes using the orders, because in a way, if you look at it, right, if you don't want to create too many functionality areas for your users, an order is, when it's a draft, is basically a quote, right? It's an unconfirmed, it's something templated that you can easily exclude from your forecasting. You can easily exclude it from your reporting, but it kind of gives you this simple access to the functionality, because you don't have too many views, you don't have too many types of records and sections that you need to be using for different processes. You want to create a quick pricing for your customer, create a draft order. If it's going to be canceled in the end, it's not a problem. We all understand it was just a quote. But also, this is where we talk about adding the products to these quotations and to these kind of templates, is actually the access to our product catalog, right? Again, just like with the Infor, this would be probably synchronized with the ERP through some of our add-ons and connectors, right? This is something where you can actually keep track of the product catalog within Creatio separately. If you're using Creatio as your primary business application, some of our customers do that as well. But you can have this catalog built dynamically based on the way that you structure it, right? You can fully configure it, and you can actually add as many levels towards the catalog as you want and use quick filtering as you normally do on any kind of e-commerce platform, right? But again, this is just as simple as adding everything into your shopping carts, right? You save it up, and then again, you can just generate a print from here, right? And you can actually send it out as an attachment from an email area on the Actions dashboard from here, right? So again, there are a couple of ways that we do this, right? Even if we talk about just the out-of-the-box functionality, I'm not going to go into possibilities, looking at some of the customer stories and experiences that we had previously. But again, this is a few ways that you can do and manage this in Creatio. And it's all about what is your specific customer need, how you want to do it, how you want to manage these, and we will support any way that you want us to.
Okay, next piece then would be the final part for me is the sales order. And so I'm in a quote right now, and I come down to common tasks, and one is convert to sales order. And I hit convert to sales order, and there we are. Now we got a sales order. It's literally that simple. Now I can go through and change it because frequently the sales order and the quote do differ. I'd have to do all those changes manually down here in the different products. So I'd have to go through and change the pricing or the quantities or the discounts and so on. But then when it's all done, I would hit this copy to email and it would put the entire thing into an email for me. I also have things like when is it due, when we delivered it, when just some comments about the actual order itself. I can drop in the purchase order number, and if it's related to a customer RFQ, I can put that RFQ in here as well. Yeah. The last thing I'm going to talk about is something they call contact processes, which are down here. This is a big difference between us and Creatio. My processes, as you saw, processes inside of leads were checklists, processes inside of opportunities were checklists. They do have a toolkit for actually creating a workflow. Unfortunately, the workflow only runs on a particular contact at a time. It's not a system-wide solution. And so this just shows you the status of each of the contact processes, what step it's on and who's it's with. And so I can actually look at that. I can also look at suspended processes and completed processes up here. But that's it. You can only start a process. You can't actually create them without the administrator kit.
Okay. Interesting that you've mentioned that, creating processes is a little bit different module, right? Or a separate module, or did I hear it wrong?
The tool to create the process is actually a separate module. Yes.
Separate module. Okay, gotcha. So we're about 20 minutes in, till the end of the session, but I do want to maybe spend like 5 minutes or 10 minutes in the very end just to talk about additional capability, not directly related to our, lead to cash process. So I'm going to make a mental note for that and, park it for now. But what I wanted to do here is, again, compare this functionality that you've mentioned and that you've shown. And I'm going to flip it back to my screen for our broadcast managers. And again, if we're looking at a specific order, right, this is just a list of the products and what we're focusing on. But we can also look at, additional details like the summary, right? And this is where you might have all kinds of data displayed, right? How we're going to be delivering it, what are going to be the payments for this, if we want to do like 100 for prepayment, right? What are the products and how we're going to be generating the invoices from here, right? Because, we also have like an invoicing or billing module that is usually 100% integrated with the accounting software or the ERPs to track the cash flow within the systems. I actually have noticed that, when you talk about Infor, there's quite huge reminders that are going and blocking half of your screen. Not sure if that's very useful or that's very good, best practice for UI and system navigation, but that's a different thing. And again, just like getting the cash into the system has always been a matter of, integration for Creatio. It is absolutely normal for us and, to have a connector and module added to the system that would connect to the customer's, accounting software. But a few things that, you mentioned here is really the process, right? Because I wasn't going to bring it up, Sam, but you kind of mentioned yourself, there's like some way of configuring the business process. As you know, we have a few ways. We have, different frameworks for different types of processes. One of them I do want to show you today, that would be our, handoff to sales stage, a specific process that we followed. Under our process library, just want to remind our audience that we've got all of the types of processes that are out there. I'm going to open it up and show that, these are all of the business processes that are being shipped with every instance of Creatio, or let's put it this way, not shipped but deployed with every instance of Creatio. Our process management tool is a very simple to read diagram where you can actually see the flow of the user through the steps of the system, right? And again, this is not a separate module. This is part of the out-of-the-box solution. Actually, this is the core of our application, right? It is fully drag and drop enabled. We are based in BPMN version 2.0. If I want to add a new task, I can just pick it up from the list based on specific type here, or I can just simply drag it out of other elements that is already available on the diagram, right? So just like native configuration, similar that you do like in a Visio perhaps, but a lot better, right? And of course, the idea here is that we combine user engaging elements, we combine, system actions, best practices to create processes that are empowering users in their operations through a combination of user and system actions. Looking at this specific process, you can notice here that we also only have like 2-3 elements that would require user attention. The rest of the actions the system would take independently for us, because we believe that this is what we can do and we should be doing for the users. But of course, our customers and our partners, some, as you know, they've been able to create completely automated business processes. They don't require any user interaction. They're fully system enabled, right? And we're talking here about data integration. We talk about machine learning model and data prediction, because by the way, the data prediction is part of the process engine, and you can dynamically repredict the data within its execution. So again, you're not limited to only one way of using it. It's more of a tool rather than a way of using it. But also, since we are not only just a CRM, but we're a low-code application that has a lot of pre-built CRM modules and functionality, our goal here is to bring forward the configuration of the system, right? And to make it easier for organizations to change and adapt, first of all, to the changing business reality and adopt new changes to their application. And maybe this is where we would really want to have a discussion with you, Sam, talking about things like how easy it is to configure Infor, what is the pricing model like, what are the additional packages that you can get and functionality within those packages, right? Can you share some of the insight on this side?
Sure. There's a different administration tool, which is does your development for you. Basically, it lets you modify your pick lists or your screens, add new fields, link those fields to tables, sort of the basic screen manipulation.
Okay.
You have there is no real workflow engine inside the product in the same sense that it is in Creatio, but they do have a screen design editor for contact processes, which uses different icons. It's not based on a standard, but it'll do things like, wait 10 days, schedule a phone call, look for an email, look for an activity. It does your basic workflow tools, but it's all inside of a contact itself. You can't be running against, say, an opportunity or an account.
Okay, and when you say workflow, you mean like human-centric workflows, right? Those would be just guiding or telling the user what to do eventually.
Yeah, right. It would be in the sense of I just entered a lead and created an activity, or I just called them, got no answer. So the automated process would kick in and say, wait 3 days, call again. Those types of things are available, but they're only available on contacts. And you're right, this thing does pop up. But it's 5 years overdue, so it's really anxious. Okay.
Yeah, well, I think that we're now just we stopped sharing the screens. It's only our faces on the broadcast. Unfortunately, our audience hasn't noticed that.
Okay.
But maybe that's just going to be another point for you there.
From a perspective of workflow, they have a separate tool called Ion, which does it they call it a workflow tool, but it's more akin to an event triggering tool. So what happens is when a piece of data changes, it fires off an event, and then you can chain those events together.
Sam, when you say it's a separate tool, I would assume that it is, first of all, additional cost, right?
So so they have two models. They have an on-premise model and a cloud model. And for the on-premise model, it is an extra fee. I believe it's $50,000 to $100,000 for the workflow engine.
Really, 50 to 100
for on-premise. For cloud users, it's included.
Okay. But is it a native tool, or is it something that was acquired and then kind of stitched together to Infor?
No, it was actually built by Infor.
By Infor. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But you have to be enabled through it. So for those who know integration technology, there are two types. There is point-to-point, where I'm just connecting one device to another and pushing data over. And there's something called broadcast and listen. Broadcast and listen is I send it up and I have listeners who listen for it. Yeah. Ion is a broadcast and listen model. So what CRM would do is it would broadcast a message to Ion, who would then send that message around to every other system that Ion's connected to, and they would listen for a particular message to come across, and if they see it, they take that data and do something with it.
Okay, perfect. Well, it's funny that you kind of mentioned, like, the different types of trigger process there. As you know, I'm a process geek, right? I like to talk about business process automation. I do like to talk about different ways that we can utilize this. And, in Creatio, we've got not just, listen and broadcast, but we also can do like schedule starts, all of our business processes, if configured in a templated way, can be reused as templates, right? And it's all about having those reusable components that you can utilize within your configuration of the system, because there's also no limit on number of the processes that you can create, right? There's no limit on number of the instances of the process that could be running. So it's when the interesting thing is when you talk about additional modules, additional pricing, it gets very complicated, right? Because when we talk about Creatio, we're going to get to the base pricing in just a few minutes, because I feel it's going to be important to mention that. But when we talk about Creatio, we say that the pricing models are very simple. They're very straightforward. There's very specific, description of what is included, what is not included. And what is happening is that, everything that you see is included within this product, right? If you need processes, they are included. If you need machine learning models, they are included. By the way, just to mention to a few questions that we had in the chat area, we're going to be talking about the machine learning models next time when we talk on our next Creatio Arena in the product battle. I'm sorry. But, we do have additional modules, but those are not really modules that you have to get in order to have an operational CRM or sales force automation product, right? Those are apps and add-ons and connectors that are available on the marketplace. And when you say, the pricing ranges between $50,000 to $100,000, that blows my mind because, the apps in our marketplace are rather affordable. They're, a lot of them are for free. Those are just created by Creatio enthusiasts like myself and you, Sam. And, it's not about having to pay an additional $500,000 just to have extra functionality that you can't actually get around with that, right? So does this make sense, Sam?
True, but if I'm an Infor ERP customer and I've already spent $1 million a year for my ERP, tossing in a $50,000 product isn't a lot. And so that's their marketplace, is really going after the very large manufacturing company that is looking for a complete Infor solution.
Sure, but again, in this case, you're towards, you have to have an ERP with Infor, right? You have to spend,
or you have to spend money to get these other features. Yes, you either have to have an ERP or you have to spend money to get those features.
Yeah, well, right now we're talking base CRM, right? We're talking out of the
box. Base CRM.
Yeah, so let's talk about base pricing, Sam. What's the base price point for Infor?
Yeah, so they have on-premise pricing still. That is, what?
Well, we do have on-prem installations as well, right? Just in our case, the price is same for cloud.
Right. No, they have different pricing. So their pricing for on-premise is essentially $1,100 plus 20%, and that's one time, and then the 20% in forever for a perpetual license. The cloud licenses are like $72 a month.
$72 a month.
So per user per month.
Per user per month, obviously, yeah. So if we compare it to Creatio, we are $50 per user per month for our, sales enterprise Creatio, which is almost a half cheaper than, the Infor is 50% more expensive than Creatio, right? Plus, we have all of this functionality that is included into the product. So you're probably getting a little bit more value from Creatio just from the price point. I'm not a sales guy. I'm not going to be talking about that. I'm just comparing functionality or how much you pay for that functionality, right? And can you maybe share some insight on what is what's the upgrade process for Infor? How often does Infor release updates and upgrades? Tell me everything about this one.
Well, that's the kryptonite, right? They get 4 upgrades a year, and you do them yourself.
And even if it's cloud.
Even if it's cloud.
If I was an Infor customer, would I need to, run maintenance on my own cloud as well?
You would.
Okay, so all the backups, all of the data storage.
Oh no, the backups and stuff are all done by them, but the actual upgrades are done by you or your partner. And the reality is most customers don't upgrade. You can go up to 2 years before they sort of force you to upgrade. So they'll support all of those releases in the middle. But
Okay.
every release coming out it's feature and bugs 4 times a year.
Okay, interesting. And just wanted to mention quickly, Sam, I'm getting a question here in the chat area. I'm current Infor Cloud client. How would I get my data into Creatio? So,
Well, I can answer that. We have pre-built a data migration tool with our Starfish product to move anything inside of Infor into Creatio.
so would you say that, let's put it this way, taking into account some of the differences in the data model, you could get a customer from Infor to Creatio using Starfish in maybe a couple days with all the configuration?
Probably. It depends on how clean their data is and how old their data is. So,
well, the CRM data is never clean. It can be either bad or really bad.
right, but I mean, you also have to understand with Infor, depending on what version you're on a different data, you're on essentially different data access model. So we would have to talk. There are current systems. We would take one approach. Anything past 626, we would take a slightly different approach, and anything before that, we would tell you to just export it all out and import it back in. Okay. So well, there's a lot of different ways of treating it.
Yeah, well, it sounls like that was a very hot lead right there in the chat area.
Yeah. I don't see the chat area, so it was.
Well, I'm just, I can imagine the sales guys that are sitting here from Creatio side are just like, okay, I'm calling this guy in just about a minute. It's about the licenses. But, just wanted to as well mention from our side when we talk about the upgrades and the releases. First of all, we provide full support for all of our customers when it gets to upgrading their instance of Creatio. As you know, we are in agile mode. We release, we have a very, accelerated delivery cycle for new functionality. We're doing minor releases every 4 or 5 weeks. We're doing major upgrades every, 4 times a year, or like 3-4 times a year. So all of that is delivered absolutely for free. All of that is delivered in an absolutely automatic way. If we're talking about having to test those upgrades first, we can definitely support that as well. And it's really about, Creatio's approach towards the customers, not limiting them, giving them full ownership towards their applications. And as well, making sure that all of our customers are using the latest version, all of our customers are using the latest functionality and the best functionality. Because we also base our product development, product roadmap on the customer voice program. We do collect a lot of that. We read through all of those points and feedback. We categorize them. We build our, themes and topics and tasks for our Scrum teams based on that feedback, jointly together with our product strategy. And the customers for us are a priority. They are number one always, right? So I'm very surprised to hear that you would need to maintain your own application, or you would need to actually run your own upgrades, right? Okay, well, we're about to get this closed up. I'm just going to ask our broadcast managers to send me the latest scores in the chat area. Let's see how we're doing. And it looks like we're 72% pro Creatio and 28% Infor. So there's that 28% that still believe in Infor. Maybe they are Infor ERP customers. I don't know. But hopefully we were able to actually get a little bit of a fresh look into how a CRM can look, fresh look into how the CRM should be supported, what functionality should be providing, people out there, and hopefully we're going to get a few more, Creatio enthusiasts from this webinar. Sam, any closing remarks from your side?
No, but I will say that if you're a Infor ERP customer, you should always consider Infor CRM because they work together and that's what they were designed to do.
Yeah, and when you consider, then go to creatio.com and check out Sales Creatio or just the Creatio full bundle as a solution for your business operations. Well, Sam, it was a pleasure having you on this product battle. You fought well. Unfortunately, the audience decided to go with Creatio. Sam, thank you guys so much for your time today. Thank you for doing this with me, and thank you everybody who participated, who watched this product battle, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks again.
Take care.
Cheers.